Ole, 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 ole. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Geelong Region Soccer News. It's episode 49. My name is Tonci Prusac, and joining me, as he does every week, my co-host, Steve Curtin. Steve, well, you are now entering a COVID zone, and we all have to mask up. And I reckon they call him, they call Dan Andrews Dictator Dan. I'm going out on a limb, and I'm going to say that he's actually a football hooligan in disguise, and he wants us all to mask up. Mate, how are you? How have you been?
Oh, good, mate, and doing even better now after seeing your Hajduk split ultra supporter mode there. So I think that's what we'll get a high rating program tonight. Not only following the government advice for regional areas and mandatory recommendations for metro areas, you're also representing in great style for the region. So it's a good start.
Well, last night it was Stella that was representing the Geelong region in The Voice, and tonight it's Tonci Prusac doing very much the same with his own rendition and own ode to The Voice. Mate, good to have you on board. It's episode 49. It's come up by surprise. Next week, goodness me, it's the half a century. Who would have thought? We're going to have to start preparing something special for next week's, what's the 50th? Is that like the Silver Jubilee or something like that? I don't know. Is it the...
I think
not sure.
Silver, 50 years?
Oh, well, if anyone listening, tuning into the show tonight can tell us, put it in the comment section. We're coming to
golden. It will be the golden anniversary.
Golden, even better.
I should know that. Sorry.
Speaking of golden, this week we got our third member of the show, Golden VIP member of this show. They're all wanting to be Gold VIP members. We've got Vladimir Zetovic. We've got Joe Pino, who was on the show last week, and another thing about last week's show in a second. But also big welcome to Stuart Mallon, who joined up this week as the third Gold VIP member of our show. Thank you very, very much, Stuart. Really, really appreciate that. You too can become a member of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. There's the address on the website on the screen, www.patreon.com/Geelong Region Soccer Show. And as of last week, one of the I guess the innovations and extra benefits that members will receive is they will receive a daily news bulletin, if you like. And they will get that news brought to them well and truly before it's released to the public. And last week, mate, we had some great news breaking stories. But tonight, mate, what's going to happen tonight? Who are some of our big name guests coming on the show tonight?
Yeah, well, two really big guests tonight. We've got someone calling in from the Sunshine State, where the banana benders are happily enjoying warmer weather and a lot less restrictions on their lifestyle, and probably feeling a lot safer than Victorians too. And that's Jessie Maes of the Brisbane Roar, former Geelong local football identity, who's now working up there as a kitman and a team manager after previously having a stint at the new startup club Western United here in the region. So looking forward to speaking to Jessie a lot about his role. It's going to be an interesting chat. And following on from that, we've got the president of North Geelong Warriors. It's the man himself, JOHN DIDULICA. So two A1 guests for tonight's show. So don't go anywhere. You're going to miss two good chats if you do.
Yeah, no, JOHN DIDULICA is going to be very interesting. And Stuart Mallon actually nominated North Geelong as his club. So we are now featuring North Geelong Warriors on this very, very first show. So you too can have your club featured as part of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. You too can have your name up in lights. We would love to do that. And so we're urging you all to become a member. Show your support. Become a member of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Right down here, we've got the following website where you can become a member. Really, really appreciate to all of that. Now, mate, we've got lots to get through tonight, a hell of a lot. We've got a massive news desk. So as Steve steps away for a very, very short break, if you like, he's going to get himself ready, and we're going to go straight into the news desk. Don't go away. You're tuning in to the Geelong Region Soccer Show, episode 49.
Good evening. It's Monday, the 20th of July, 2020. Now, kicking off the news desk tonight, the proposed men's football competition, which has been floated around the region to take place in lieu of the metro areas being shut down. Geelong's senior men's clubs, which participate in the Football Victoria's state leagues and NPL competitions, have been approached by the Federation about setting up a local two-tiered league for later this year, which would likely culminate in the summer months in a proposal being suggested. The 8 clubs which compete either at NPL or state league level would be split into 2 divisions and would play a shortened home and away season. When asked about the proposal, tonight's guest, North Geelong Warriors President JOHN DIDULICA, said that the club would certainly look favourably on any sort of competition that might be engineered in the coming months or into the summer. Meanwhile, Ballarat-based club, that being Sebastopol Vikings, have indicated that they would jump at the chance to be part of the mooted competition over the coming summer months if they were to be invited by Football Victoria. According to the Sebastopol Vikings coach Corey Smith, the State League 3 outfit would be keen to play in the one-off competition. Now, women's under-18 competition is another concept that's been floated recently. Geelong clubs have been reportedly approached by Football Victoria to submit an expression of interest with regards to the creation of a Geelong under-18 female league. A letter received by the clubs from the state body urged local community clubs to submit an expression of interest to assess the viability of what would be an under-18 league competition. The proposed new league, which would be for the current season only, would go somewhat to compensating for the likelihood of no senior women's competition going ahead in 2020 due to the current COVID-19 restrictions. So a couple of competitions there. We'll have to wait and see. The numbers of COVID cases that are active in the Geelong area have gone up in the last couple of days, and some of our neighbours, including Colac and Golden Plains and Ballarat, have had increases in cases. So hopefully those numbers can remain no higher than their current amount so that we have more chance of this sort of thing getting off the ground and we don't go into stage 3 restrictions ourselves, Tonci.
Yeah, no, that's right. Exactly right. Look, with obviously the proposals, they are proposals and they're really expressions of interest. And I guess they will not go ahead. Let's face it. They will not go ahead if the conditions are not safe end of the day. And look, you know, it's something that's being kind of discussed possibly for later in the year, possibly for September, possibly for October. But, you know, there is another flip side. That article also had Mario Gregorio quoted from the Croatian Soccer Club. And, you know, speaking to Mario, he did say, look, the general feeling amongst the playing group at Croatia is that they've lost interest. They really have lost interest. And there's a few other clubs saying exactly the same, where basically it's kind of this on again, off again. We start training, we stop training, we look forward to full contact training. Then we're told when there isn't going to be any full contact training, then the season's off, then there may be some sort of a bridge. They've had enough of it, basically. And a lot of people are saying, you know, look, just give once and for all, let us know what's going to happen. And look, and that's that other side of the coin. JOHN DIDULICA, I guess he represents a club that is, you know, firstly and foremostly a football club. All they want to do is play football. Any moment they can get, they're really interested. And we've seen with the juniors, and we'll talk about the juniors very shortly, but, you know, the juniors around the region, there are those clubs that, you know, are just, you know, it doesn't matter if it lasts 2 weeks or 10 weeks or 20 weeks, they are keen to play. And then there are other clubs, and you got to understand their predicament as well. They're saying, well, we have to jump through hoops. All of this procedure and policies that we got to implement, it's way too much on our, you know, volunteers that are stretched as is. So, you know, in our region, we're so diverse, and our appetite, our football appetite, is so different that we got to be understanding of that. But, you know, I guess those clubs that really want to play, such as what you mentioned about Sebastopol Vikings, they really want to be a part of it. They absolutely want to be a part of it.
That's right. Well, you present a couple of good arguments there. So just as we stand at the moment, Geelong has shot up to 13 cases. That's 2 more in the last 24 hours, while Colac Otway is up to 12 and Golden Plains is up to 5. So as we were saying, fingers crossed that those numbers don't increase and we can see this sort of competition. But the biggest enemy at the moment is the uncertainty, making it really hard to plan when you just don't know what's around the corner, as recent weeks have seen. Now, moving on in the news desk, Football Victoria has called a meeting of local clubs to be held this week to discuss its refunds policy. The Federation is said to be currently working through a consultation process with key stakeholders to help with the final stages of delivering a refund position with a cost apportionment model to cover various costs and services already delivered. It's understood from sources that local clubs are seeking transparency from the Federation as their prime objective. Tonci.
Well, we've got a what's the word? Best way to describe it is we've got an exclusive. We have been approached by a certain club, and they have provided us insight into what has transpired, and here is that letter. So we're going to actually show that letter, if we can. There it is. So Football Victoria is facing a precarious financial position due to the impact COVID-19 is having on our game. Season 2020 has provided the organisation with one of the most significant financial challenges in its history. We are grateful at this time of writing that some form of football in most regional areas of Victoria have and will proceed. I want to acknowledge how hard this has been and continues to be for your association, your club, your volunteers and your community whilst we all navigate our way through the government restrictions. This is important. We are currently working through a consultation process with key stakeholders to help with the final stages of developing our refund position. We understand the varying levels of training and competition that have been disrupted and will consider this through the process. We will apply a cost apportionment model to cover the various costs and services that have already been delivered. We will be mindful of hardship and medical conditions and its ultimate impact, and we will ensure a fair and reasonable approach to the policy. Ultimately, this is how we all will remain viable so we can successfully move beyond COVID-19 and continue to drive football in Victoria. Signed by Karen Pearce, the Executive Manager of Growth and Inclusion. Well, it's pretty groundbreaking stuff. It's quite, I think it's going to be massive. There's going to be a lot of clubs that are going to want to know exactly what is happening. They will want transparency, Steve. They will want to know where their money is going. And look, Football Victoria, they're in a, as it mentions there, they're in a precarious financial position. Look, I mean, mate, what do you make of it?
It's hard to say at the moment, but I have a feeling that next week we'll have a suitable guest to come on and inform us about all the comings and goings, perhaps.
Yeah, look, next week we'll mention who that guest is going to be. We'll mention it now. I don't like suspension. I wanted to say now. Next week we're going to have a very, very important guest, someone who's returning to the show, and hopefully they will have a little bit of a better picture or better summary of what is happening and what is going on. But I think it's more than just a meeting with stakeholders. I think there's more to it as well. But that's just my gut feeling. But Steve, who's going to be? You can do the honours of announcing who our big guest is going to be next week.
Do we do a little drum roll? Next week, it's the return of GRFC Committee Chairman Mike McKinstry. So we're looking forward to having a chat with Mike. Really good chat with him last time he was on the program. So I can't wait to speak with Mike again.
Should be fantastic. Should really be good. I mean, it's probably worth. It was already due. It was overdue that we had a catch up with Mike to see what is happening. But with all of these proposals behind the scenes, suggestions. We've been very, very lucky in Geelong that we've had 2 weeks now of some form of junior football happening. Hopefully it'll last into the third week. Will it last beyond that? Hard to say. These sort of things can change, at a drop of a hat, basically. It's going to be an interesting episode 50 next week. It's going to be a very interesting show. So we cannot wait for that. But before
That's
that,
right. We say it every week, but not to be missed. But yeah, I have to say it for next week.
Absolutely. Now, by the way, mate, we have to make a comment. That backdrop looks very different. The cathedral-like ceilings, the brick background. Mate, have you done some renovations at your home?
Yeah, so I've had the good people from Grand Designs come in, and no, actually, you're very observant with the cathedral ceilings there, Tonci, but I am visiting Mum up in Bendigo, so back to where it all began. We've still got the goals in the backyard here, so I might have to go out and have some set piece practice after the show tonight, perhaps in the dark. Who knows? Depends how we go tonight, perhaps.
Whatever you do not do what my co-host on the Football Out West show has done. He's ruptured his calf or done something silly like that, thinking that he was 21 again. Big shout out to Craig Philo if you're watching. You're probably, lying on the couch, leg elevated at 45 degrees. Poor wife is there massaging you, tendering to your every needs. Life is difficult, isn't it, Philo? Life is difficult. But
we do wish that Craig gets well soon, of course.
All jokes aside, wishing him all the best. And another person we also wish all the best, speedy recovery, is Surf Coast President Steve Christou, who had a really unfortunate accident. He did touch base with me during the week that he is getting better, and he thanks everyone who's wished him all the well wishes and what you're not. So once again, cheerio out to Surf Coast President Steve Christou. May you get back onto your feet and back at it, running the show again. A-League time. A-League time is back, isn't it?
Yeah, and just before that, I just got a bit of transfer news. The Geelong Region's own Laura Brock, formerly known as Laura Alloway, has joined the exodus of Matildas headed for Europe, signing this week for French Division 1 side Guingamp. The 30-year-old defender leaves her second stint at Melbourne Victory. Very grateful for the experience. She said, without Victory, I would never have gone on to achieve what I have. So I think that's fair that we can claim her as the Geelong Region's own Laura Brock. Now, you're right, Tonci. The A-League has resumed, and we had a poll on the page, which is still active now. You can still get on there now and cast your vote. And the question is, have you watched any A-League on TV since its return over the weekend? And a short time ago, those results stood at 33% for yes and 67% for no. But for those who haven't tuned in so far, I wonder how many will be tuning in to see those two Victorian teams playing on Saturday. Leave us your comments below the poll there or on our page underneath the show tonight.
Yeah, look, only 33 votes, folks. Come on, we can do better. But maybe Steve, that is an indication of, I guess here in Geelong in particular, as you said, no Victorian teams participated. But on top of that, just overall, there's some apathy. There's just a real there isn't a lot of interest, unfortunately, at the moment for the A-League, and it seems to be widespread. Earlier tonight, the Geelong Advertiser reported that the A-League's TV ratings crisis has been laid bare, with football slaughtered not only by heavyweights AFL and NRL this weekend, but also the much maligned Super Rugby. And that article goes on to say that the A-League is looking for suitors to show the competition long-term, having been signed up to Fox Sports until the end of next season. But the opening weekend raised flags galore. And then it goes further on. After a 4-month shutdown due to COVID-19, the A-League's return fell flat with fans, with just 9,000 tuning in for the Saturday night showdown between Perth and Central Coast. Friday night season restarter, the Sydney FC Wellington game, fared not that much better with 12,000 viewers overall. So, look, I'll tell you what, it's quite a disappointing type of a statistic, if you want. Doesn't really augur well for the A-League, I guess, numerically speaking. But maybe that may change this weekend with the two Victorian clubs being involved.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's pretty obvious to see when you watch the programming now that the budgets have been slashed in the production. There's no Simon Hill. There's no pre-match show.
No.
There's less cameras. Even the cameras seem to be, I'm no expert, they seem to be like at a worse resolution than what they were previously. So, Yeah, you can tell that Fox is not certainly not putting their eggs in the basket of the A-League at the moment, so to speak. But there is some things to look forward to, and that is some of the young talent that is getting more exposure. Like we saw the young Aussie Rene Piscopo starring for the Phoenix on Friday night. And the best way to steer us out of the crisis will be good, exciting young players, as we've done in the past, and we can do it again.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's interesting that you mentioned that.
And do you want those results over the weekend? Sydney FC running out
let's do that.
3-1 winners over Wellington Phoenix in the return game, over an unlucky Wellington Phoenix, you have to say. Perth Glory 1-0 winners over the Central Coast Mariners. And Brisbane Roar, the club of Jessie Maes, tonight's guest, who we'll be speaking to shortly, they suffered a 1-0 defeat on the Gold Coast at the hands of Adelaide United. Coming up tomorrow night, Sydney FC will be playing against Newcastle United Jets. And the following night is Perth Glory versus Wellington Phoenix. And then there's a little bit of a gap. And then Friday we will see at Blue Tongue at 7:30 the Mariners versus the Jets in the older F3 derby. And Saturday night, the curtain raiser at 5 p.m, Wellington Phoenix versus Adelaide United, and the big one at 7:35, Melbourne Victory versus Western United. They've had 2 great games so far in their history, and I'm sure they're looking forward to making it 3.
Yeah, should be interesting. Look, one thing that I am kind of looking forward with the A-League resuming is, apart from the fact that, we've got live sport, and it is going to be most nights of the week, which will be pretty good. The other thing, I guess, is a lot of the youngsters that are getting a go. A lot of NPL signings. Western United have signed a couple. Perth Glory have signed a couple. I think Melbourne Victory are travelling with no less than 7 or 8 members of their junior academy. So all in all, you know what? If nothing else, the curiosity factor of how are these youngsters going to go, that's going to be, for me, pretty interesting, I think, So, I think there is a lot to look forward to, that's for sure. Give it a go. Give it a go for the next I don't know, 3-4 weeks or whatever long it's going to be. Let's give it a go, and hopefully we'll have some, interest around the A-League, at least build up some interest for next season.
That's right. And that's something we can both agree on there. And for the Melbourne City fans out there, it is a bit of a longer wait for their first game. They have obviously less catch-up games to play. I think they only have 4 in this schedule, whereas others have up to 6. Melbourne City will play Sydney FC at 5 p.m. on Saturday, the 1st of August. So good luck to those City fans when they finally get out there. And as you mentioned, Tonci Western United have swooped on a couple of youngsters, and that includes Patrick Antelmi and Nicholas Milanovic. Antelmi is actually a 26-year-old from Perth, but Milanovic is a teenager who last played in the New South Wales NPL 2 for the Western Sydney Wanderers youth outfit there. Okay, and we can run into those juniors.
Welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show here on the Geelong Region Soccer News Facebook page, and also the Football Out West Facebook page. Mate, we are about to be joined by our new guest, our next guest. Hopefully he's ready to join us. It's going to be, it's going to be someone that a lot of people down here in Geelong know, Steve, and someone he's been involved in quite a fair few clubs as well, locally, in a way. Mm-hmm. Do you want to introduce our next guest, mate?
I will. I have the pleasure of doing that. It's a very warm welcome to the Geelong Region Soccer Show tonight, all the way from Brisbane. Hello to you, Jessie Maes.
Hey, how are we, boys?
Jesse, how you doing? Good to see your smiling face. How? Of course you'd be smiling because you're in Queensland, the perfect state. There's no issues about COVID there. The weather, what was it, 23 or 24 degrees today in Brisbane?
Yeah, 23, 24, not a cloud in the sky. Perfect weather up here. It's fantastic to be up here.
Can we disconnect him right now, Steve? Or yeah.
He's looking a little bit too smug, isn't he? And
He's-
how's life regarding the COVID situation up there for you?
It's pretty good. I think most things are pretty open now, so it's when weekends come after a busy week, you can go to a cafe, a pub, or restaurant, and there's not really many restrictions regarding up here. I think you're allowed up to 100 people in I think it's 1 to 2 metre rule now. So yeah, it's pretty good. And compared to Victoria, I speak to a lot of family back there, which are in Melbourne, so they're in lockdown. So it's pretty frustrating, but yeah, I get one more night in Queensland before I'm joining the Sydney hub tomorrow morning.
Now, tell us about that. The Sydney hub are all clubs now moving to New South Wales, and is that in response maybe to the ever worsening COVID crisis that's starting to envelop New South Wales? Is that the latest news, mate?
Yeah. So last night after the game, I think I'm pretty sure Adelaide had the same experience, but all players and staff that were there last night were all called into the change rooms. Basically, 2 minutes after the whistle went. The CEO came in and said, after long efforts with FFA trying to stay in Queensland, we would be moving to Sydney immediately. So, it was basically pack up shop and head to Sydney. So I was there, basically haven't been to bed since last night's game and packing up. And, the players left on a flight tonight to go down, and I'll drive tomorrow with the football director as well, who will hit the road as well.
So we are privileged to have your time tonight, considering all that.
It's been a massive 48 hours of preparation, but everything to do to get the league keep going, I guess.
Yep.
Well, let's do a close-up of his eyes. Look, you can look at his
Hello?
eyes. He looks like he hasn't even been sleeping, I know. There you go. Like, the eyes look very, very tired there. Oh, don't tell me we've lost him. Oh, no, we've lost him. Hello?
I think he didn't want that close-up, Tonci.
I think he got. We scared him. We scared him. He's back. Here we go. He's back. Hello, mate.
Yeah, I'm back.
We lost you for a second. we did a close up of your eyes, your scary looking eyes, and then just the picture went dead. Like, but Jess, your role, team manager / kit manager, mate.
Yes.
Tell us that seems like a very, very glamorous, exciting role. You get to rub shoulders with all the first team players. Tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, so I guess on day-to-day, it's like I get there probably about 6 o'clock in the morning, make sure everything is open for coaches, staff, and the players, make sure the players' rooms are all set up, ready to go for training, making sure the young boys are there early to get all the equipment out for coaches, letting them know what to bring out, set up, and then, just if any players need to know anything admin-wise, letting them giving it to them, and then now the new protocols with COVID and doing the thermo to the head, making sure they get the temperature right and doing the paperwork for that. So, and then it's a busy day. Then you're on the field, making sure everything's going smoothly.
Now, there's been a lot of uncertainty over the recent times, obviously, but none more than the head coach there at Brisbane Roar. How has that all played out for you guys as staff members there?
Yeah, so obviously when COVID hit, Robbie's family was back in the UK. So he went back over there to spend it with family, of course, as most people would, because we didn't know when we were coming back to the league. And then, obviously 3 months went past when we came back, and Robbie was still in the UK. I guess still having communication, still organising training. And, and then we obviously got the message at the same time as basically everyone else when he said he wasn't going to come back to the club. And, wanted to stay with family during a tough time, probably in the UK, probably much tougher time than they're having in Australia. So,
and what was it like the short amount of time that you were able to spend with Robbie Fowler? I mean, he's such a great of the modern game, isn't he? What was he like off the field in the dressing rooms, both as a person and as a soccer demigod? Did you learn much from him? Was he inspirational just to be around? Tell us what it was like, an insight into what it was like with Robbie Fowler.
Yeah, it was pretty just surreal to be around him. On the field, he's very professional, as he would be. He's a Liverpool legend. And off the field, it's a very fun bloke. Like, he'd be always playing table tennis or tech ball with a few of the players in England, having a bit of fun and making sure it was a pretty fun environment. Because once I got to Brisbane Roar, it was just a very fun environment to be around. A lot of the players just loving to play table tennis and just smiling, laughing, and that's I think what Robbie brought. What I've seen him brought to the first 3 weeks I was there, and it's continued on ever since coming back from COVID.
And Warren Moon, have you had a chance to spend much time with Warren? What's he like? I mean, it's good. We're wrapped. An Australian is finally getting, or Australians are getting gigs in the A League. We saw Carl Viet as well as at the helm of Adelaide's United. But with Warren Moon, what's he like in the dressing room and amongst the squad?
Yeah, so Warren's come in. He came in day one of coming back to training after the break. And yeah, I'm with him all the time on the field, off the field. And yeah, he's a very, very great bloke to hang out with, very quiet, very, I don't know if you would say laid back, but just like a very nice bloke, yeah, just to be around. And yeah, he's fantastic. He's him and Daz as coaches, and he's also brought in Graham Fife as another assistant to join the 4 coaches we have now. So it's been great. And yeah, I've been asking a few people around Brisbane what Warren Moon's been like, and he's a very well respected person at Lions Football Club, which was, I guess, the Brisbane Roar, what Brisbane Roar were before the A League. So Brisbane Roar has set aside venture from that. So it's great to have someone from Lions all the way to now Brisbane Roar.
Now, you've got some good young talent around in the squad at the moment. You've got the likes of Wenzel Halls and so forth. Is there anyone that we should keep an eye at that you've seen in action that's a standout that's going to impress in the coming seasons up there?
Yeah, I think I like the likes of Jordan Courtney-Perkins. He went to the Under-17 World Cup with Australia last season, and he's been doing some pretty good things in training, and he even got onto the field last night. So I'd say, yeah, keep an eye on Jordan Courtney-Perkins, Isaac Powell as well, Kai Truan. Those young boys are coming through, and I guess it gives everyone a chance after the break, all coming back fit, fighting for spots. So those young boys will hopefully get a spot, especially with them coming through Warren in the academy at Brisbane Roar. So it'd be fantastic for them to see them in the spot.
And we're allowed more subs now, like the 5 subs. Is that something that the coaching staff have got to look at a bit differently, and a good opportunity for the younger guys?
Yeah, exactly right. I think the video analysis has been going through what's been going on around overseas, as they've started a bit earlier, to see how it affects their league and what's the best situation to go on here. But yeah, I'm sure they'll utilise that as much as they can.
Now, Jess, you've obviously been to a couple of A-League clubs because you were also at Western United in their membership department. Let's look at your time at Western United. New club, starting off from scratch, was really finding it difficult to attract the crowds, but for various reasons. Obviously, it had that sort of nomadic movement, moving from GMHBA Stadium to Eureka Stadium to Whitten Oval and what you're not. But off the field, it did reasonably well. In fact, it did exceptionally well in the membership department. I think the last count was well over 5,000 members in its inaugural season, which is pretty darn good. Now, you were part of that membership department. Tell us, how did you find it, working with a startup club? And, there were a couple of Geelong people there, namely Pete Bradley, involved as well. And your experiences at Western United?
Yeah, it was fantastic, especially just coming back from Canberra and getting straight into Western United about 2 weeks of being in. It was, it was basically my goal when I moved back from Canberra is to get into Western United, and I got in contact with Robert, who was the head of community there. So
yep.
Yeah, so he got me involved into the membership as a volunteer, and then a month later I was working as a casual in the office, just trying to boost membership, going out into Geelong, setting up at local clubs at big events like the Grand Final Days and the Junior Hubs, and just talking about Western United, who we are. So it was fantastic, especially being a Geelong boy. I was always hoping for an A-League team there. And then, I worked at membership from July to December, and then eventually was their team manager for the last 3 to 4 months there as well.
Brilliant.
So, Jessie, I understand you come through the CEDA program back in Geelong back in the day. Can you tell us, I guess, for those of us who don't know your journey, a little bit about how that all came about through the culmination of your education in the sporting sector, and then your journey where you've now been to Canberra, Melbourne, Geelong, Brisbane, etc.?
Yeah, no worries. So Yeah, I wasn't really much of a fan of a high school, and being a massive sporting kid, I really wanted to get out of high school. And when Cedar came up, I took the opportunity to go to Cedar, and I was actually in a tennis program, so I wasn't much of a football fan. Growing up, I went to the tennis program, and I bumped into, I guess everyone knows Geelong Foddy, so bumped into him one day, and he was looking for work placement people, and I thought, I need a work placement for Cedar, so I jumped involved with Foddy, and at the time Michael Dam was the administrator there. So I was spending just 2 years with them, and that's when I became a lover of football. And then Foddy, about 6 months later, got me involved at community engagement at Melbourne Heart on game days. So, that's where my love of football began, and did 2 years there. And then, obviously Michael left and Tonci came in. That's how my relationship with Tonci then started to grow, doing a lot of events there, grand final days with Football Federation Victoria, and then doing a few more things with Melbourne City at the time. And then, I went after graduating from Cedar, I went to university for the first year, and then kept working as a volunteer under Foddy and at Melbourne City, and eventually getting a full-time gig at Capital Football in Canberra, where I deferred university and was there community leagues coordinator, which was everything under MPL. So
brilliant.
Then,
I was saying brilliant. Keep going.
Sorry. And then so I was basically organising all the leagues there. Sort of didn't know what I wanted to do in football or sport. And I was sitting next to, because Capital Football in Canberra also owned the Canberra United W League team. And I was sitting next to the Canberra United football operations manager, who said you kind of need to find a role as well in the summer after the state leagues finished to keep you involved in the organisation. So I jumped on board to help out the football operations, to be a team manager at the same time there. And started travelling around with the W League team. So it was a fantastic opportunity. That's where I sort of became a love of working in a football operations group at a professional level at W League. And then, obviously my opportunity came along at Western United to get involved and started working in the membership team.
Big cheerio to Mrs. Curtin there in the background. We can see you right behind Steve's. I think she wants to ask a question, Jess, but I guess it's great to see.
Maybe she wants one of those Scott McDonald tops, as Michael Ong has just asked for, perhaps. Keeping the fire going here. Pretty cold overnight lows in Bendigo, not like up there at Fortitude Valley or somewhere in Queensland.
Did you know Scott? Did you know Scott McDonald while he was at Western United, Jess?
Yeah, I did. I met Scott McDonald. I think I worked with him for about a month, and then, he obviously departed Western United to go to Brisbane. And then, reunited.
You following me? Stop following me.
It was good actually knowing someone, because the first day I got to the room, it's hard to, I guess in football, you've got to earn the respect of a professional playing group or any playing group, for example. And he got me in there and introduced me to all the players and coaches. He was fantastic. So, offered his help for that first week I was there, which was brilliant to know someone.
And what's the facilities at Brisbane Roar? What are they like? We're going to play a little bit of a screenshot now, I guess, of one of the Brisbane Roar training venues. What's the facility like compared to what Western United have? Yeah,
the facilities are pretty good. I guess coming from Western United, they had that brand new NPL club of Georgie's, which is a brilliant club. We're at Logan for Brisbane Roar, which is probably halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. It's pretty handy because some players live on the Gold Coast and in Brisbane, so easy to get to. And we've got, what you see on the right there is all your players' rooms in that first building there, players' rooms and your coaches' rooms. And then on the upper side, on the right side here, is all your the staff rooms and the players' rooms. My office is in that side, and all the equipment rooms. And
so how far is
Western United and Brisbane Roar is that the admin staff are also in the same building, so which makes things a lot more easier as a club. It's a fantastic facility. We've got the 4 fields there. We also have Football Brisbane there, so the equivalent to FFB, also in the same facility.
Just wanted to ask you, how far is Logan from the CBD of Brisbane? Yeah, how far is Logan from the CBD, the Brisbane CBD?
Lost you if you can't hear me.
What? We've lost you. Hello?
I can still hear you, Jesse, if you can hear me.
Yeah.
No.
No, we seem to have lost. We've lost Jesse's audio. Yep, we've lost Jesse's audio, unfortunately. We're going to try and hopefully get him back.
So we can get him back. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go.
I can just see that Brisbane City Centre to Logan is 27 minutes by car.
27 minutes by car. There you go. So probably, are you back, Jess?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah. The question was how far is Logan from the Brisbane CBD? But Steve's answered that already.
Yeah.
Looked on Google Maps.
26.9 kilometres.
Yeah, so it takes me. I live right near the city of Brisbane. It takes me about 25 to 30 minutes to get to Logan.
And that's a big growth area, isn't it? I like that.
Yeah.
Logan. Is that a massive growth area? Like, I mean, they always talked about if Brisbane was to get a second A-League side to be located around that area. Is that right?
I'm not too sure if the second team would be located there, but it is a massive growth area. It's a massive area, Logan. It's basically everything between Gold Coast and Brisbane.
Oh,
so it's which I found fantastic. Like, they call it another city of Queensland here, so which is amazing. But it's a massive area. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And what's the thoughts on? Firstly, I have to ask, how hot does it get at that training ground? But secondly, what's the thoughts on Dolphin Stadium from the staff there?
Dolphin, yeah. Well, I haven't witnessed a game there yet, but apparently it's a fantastic atmosphere. It's I've been to the stadium before, just an empty stadium there, and it's a perfect size stadium. It's 15,000 seats. When they've had games there, it's packed, it's loud, it's fantastic compared to Suncorp. If you have 15,000 at Suncorp, it's empty. It looks very empty, and you don't get as much of the atmosphere for like a packed stadium. But the staff said it's fantastic there at Dolphin Stadium.
Now, mate, plans going further afield. Are you happy to stay where you are? Or you looking ahead to next season, or you're looking at coming back to Victoria or coming back home, or what are the plans in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, at the moment, I plan to stay at Brisbane the next season. Apart from that, I haven't really made much plans. I guess at the moment, my plans are day to day because yesterday I thought I was staying in Brisbane, and then tomorrow I'm going to Sydney for the foreseeable future for the rest of the season. So at the moment, my plans are day to day, hour to hour with the way the A-League is going. So just trying to finish this season and hopefully bring home a title back to Brisbane where we were in a pretty good position still. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Where will the hub be for you in Brisbane? Will it be somewhere nice like the Manly Beach, like we've seen some of these AFL players, or will you be sent to the Boondocks, or what's going to happen there?
So we're staying near Bankwest Stadium in Hawkesbury. So apparently it's near mountains, very cold. So I just got told, I got phone calls and text messages from players to make sure to bring puffer jackets after puffer jackets because they're not going to be used to absolutely cold weather out there. So
won't be used to 23-degree weather, that's for sure. Brilliant, Jess. Thank you very much for joining us. And look, one last question, I guess. You have been involved with Western United. You have been involved with Brisbane. We've lost him again, have we? Hello?
I'm still here.
I think he's still here.
He's still there. Yeah. And Brisbane Roar as well. You've seen a lot as far as football on a national level. Geelong. Where are we with football in Geelong, in your opinion? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And how can we improve our situation in Geelong as far as the sport is?
That's a good question. Like, I think, it's a hard one to answer. I think I'd love to see more coverage on the local, because I guess I was at Drysdale, so the local game where it's not just focused on all the state leagues. I know it's the prestige that better players are playing in those state leagues, and it's a very competitive leagues. But I'd love to see the Division 1 and Division 2 focus on more around the Geelong, just get them pumped up. Like if a local derby, say for Drysdale playing Surfside, a local derby pumped up, and get like interviews out of that and coaching and captain speaking. I'd love to see more of that going forward. But that's probably what I'd love to see. But apart from that, I think the last few years, especially when I was back in Geelong last year, the advertiser are doing a fantastic job with the NPL and State League. You get a massive coverage on that on the Friday, which is good. Just not your lucky local footy, I guess. But, we're getting there in Geelong.
Yeah, I think we'll always struggle if the football community itself doesn't put into it as well. And look, we're a classic example. We're probably the only medium that promotes local football, apart from Facebook and social media and that sort of stuff. And we as a community, I think we really need to start getting behind the sport. I think we don't do enough of it. I'd certainly agree with you. I'd like to see a lot more coverage, but the only way we're going to get that coverage is for the community itself to really start voting in big ways and sponsoring, taking out subscriptions. The clubs themselves, they don't help themselves a lot of the time because a lot of the time they don't even update their own social media. And that's your perfect a way of, free advertising, basically. Every time you put a post, it's free advertising for your club. And kudos to those clubs that do it on a regular basis. And it's the same half a dozen clubs that do it incredibly well. And I understand we're all, volunteers. We're all volunteers at various clubs and this and that. But I think, some of these clubs that do it really well have a designated social media person or a media manager or whatever the case may be. So, and you see those clubs. So, yeah, really good observation there, Jess. And mate, we'd love to have you on the show again. We've had you on the show before, and we'd certainly love to have you on the show again.
Yeah, I'll give you an update in the hub in a few weeks' time if we're still there, and let you know what's going on. Try and get a few people involved. It'll be great.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Sounds good. Hey, I see it's the next few days there at Parramatta, 18, 17, 18, 18, 19, 18. So if you want to swap with Victoria, we're happy to take it.
Yeah, 4 degrees, 3 degrees, etc. in the mornings, yeah. Jessie Maes, football manager and kit manager at the Brisbane Roar, thank you very much for joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show.
Thank you, boys. Very much appreciate having me on board.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you very much.
That was Jessie Maes, as we said, from Brisbane Roar. Really appreciate him coming on board and helping out. Now, mate, we're not going to take a break. We're going to get straight into it because it's already 13 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're going to get our next guest, a man who doesn't need much introduction. He's been heavily involved in football in all parts of this country and in all sorts of ways, from player to coach to football administrator. And today he is the president of Geelong's biggest club, North Geelong Warriors, JOHN DIDULICA. It's an absolute pleasure bringing John to the screen. How are you, John?
Wonderful, Tonci.
There we go. Great to have your dulcet tones joining us, mate. How are things in lockdown at the moment? You're down the highway. Tell us what it's like, behind the lines,
Well, it's tough.
behind the barricades, as they say.
Very tough. The daily highlight is walking down to the shops for a coffee and then walking home.
Yeah.
So if we lost that right, where would we be then?
Do that every day for a month. It can get a bit tiresome, but we all got to do what we have to do to get through this, and if that helps, then so be it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mate, now let's talk to some more positive things. The juniors are back playing. North Geelong has got a great contingent of juniors, particularly girls as well. This year, like every year, just seems to be growing. And this year with no NPL juniors in Melbourne and no Metro competition in Melbourne, a lot of the juniors are now coming back to Geelong. So what has been the feeling, the vibe around the club, and who has been particularly responsible for getting everything COVID compliant in the background down at Elcho Park? Here's a chance to give them a bit of a shout out.
Yeah, it's been a big job. It's been a little bit interesting. Like normally you get into the flow of work. So the season starts and one weekend rolls into the next, and you have this, I suppose, inertia or centrifugal force that just takes you from one week to the next, seniors, juniors, and you get through it. You get to the end of the season, you take a big deep breath and you start again. This has been really different because it's just been shape-shifting all the time. If we go back 2 or 3 months ago, we had our season launch ready to go. All of a sudden, everything was off, had to press pause on a lot of different things. Then we started training again, looked as if we'd been into a full season, a lot of work with Football Victoria and other clubs and everybody else to get the senior season back up, and then almost on the eve of the season again, that gets cancelled. Then in parallel with that, we have the specific application of those rules to kids and juniors in the NPL. How do they work? the community football that we have, because Geelong is fortunately allowed to continue. And that's been a huge burden on volunteers at the club to have to track that all the time and adopt the highest possible standards in the management of that. So big, you wanted me to name some people, mate. It's always hard to single people out because so many people put so much effort in just to getting a simple match off the ground. But Josip Skorko in particular has been amazing with the elite end of the club. The work he puts in with the NPL teams and the seniors is incredible. And Nicole Krasic at the junior end in particular has been enormous. She managed to get a huge carnival off the ground last weekend, with things changing by the day about what requirements we had to have in place, answering questions from parents and others who may not be entirely across the rules, even simple things like getting logistics sorted. In the old days, getting a kit was simple. You put an order in and it arrived at the club and you handed it out. Now with supply chains being disrupted locally, internationally, things aren't arriving on time. They're arriving in different batches. So it's been a huge undertaking just to deliver the basics of putting on a game and getting basics like kits out to players, let alone conducting training sessions. So people like Nicole, Josip and Maria Schwerhardt have been amazing, but I shouldn't single them out because everyone's been huge with their contribution.
And we've seen with some of the other clubs, maybe some of the smaller clubs that really do, they struggle with volunteers as it is. But, with all of the requests or not requests, requirements that is being thrust upon them from Football Victoria, from the councils, from Watch Your Nots, with all this COVID pandemic crisis, some of the clubs actually can't, have decided they're going to pull juniors out or pull mini roos out. And, you got to, I suppose, understand that. But yeah. I guess that's a credit to a club such as North Geelong Warriors, that it's got this philosophy of wanting to play at all costs, obviously within reason. But that is something that I think a lot of people also are starting to recognise from outside the club. A lot of players constantly coming to North Geelong wanting to play, whether it be from locally, whether it be from outside the region, etc. That must be another sort of side effect of all the good work that is being done behind the scenes at the club.
Yeah, well, I think, you talk about, in our game, money is very skint. So you don't sit on bags of gold at community football clubs, but what you have is goodwill and equity, and you have goodwill and equity in volunteers. And because the club has been, I think, such a great community servant, particularly, generationally for the Croatian community and more recently for the broader Geelong community, we've built up a lot of community goodwill. So the volunteers that we have in place understand what our ethos is, and that's about ensuring that our young kids can get every conceivable opportunity to play football. And they're prepared to, us as a club are prepared to tap into the reserves of goodwill, the reserves of positivity that we've built up, and now lean on those now to get people to go above and beyond to deliver football. I have a lot of sympathy for clubs that haven't been around potentially for as long as we have, don't have the volunteer network that we've been able to build up over generations, and can't deliver football at the moment. It's incredibly taxing and challenging to be able to deliver the sport at the level that it needs to be delivered. So I've got a lot of sympathy for those clubs. We, at the outset as a board, said we are committed to doing whatever it takes to get football back on. We didn't want to see our talented players lose potentially 12 months of development, but equally we understand the important role soccer teams play in friendships, networks, particularly when players and families have been disconnected in so many other ways. We just felt it was fundamental as a community institution to be able to keep football going, and I'm really glad that to date we've been able to do that.
Absolutely.
And John, following on from that question from Tonci, I guess firstly for the juniors, what in your opinion would happen to the youngsters, especially those in the talented category, should they miss 12 months of playing competitive football to their overall development?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously impossible to put a percentage figure on it, and a lot of players' development is non-linear, which means it goes in leaps and bursts over time. But I think if you looked at it objectively, you'd have to think that a player in Australia who can't access any elite coaching or elite playing from the end of March through to January next year, which may be the issue impacting on some players, would fall behind where they would otherwise have been, and they would also fall behind relative to players around the world who are continuing to play. So if you have elite players who in time might need to be competing with players abroad, whether it's within Asia or Europe or South America, if those players aren't able to train and lose 9 months, that'll have a huge, puts up a huge barrier for them. So, that's why we need to keep, at the very least, training these players and giving them some capacity to sharpen their skills, continue developing during what are key formative years.
Now, touching on the mooted regional competition, which we mentioned in the news desk, which would include Geelong clubs playing in the metro-based state and NPL clubs, and possibly including teams from afar as Ballarat, Bendigo, Shepparton. What's the club's stance on that? And should the conditions in coming months improve, are we likely to see a comp like that get off the ground?
Well, I think we'd certainly love to. There's a lot of, as we've seen again, this is the dynamic nature of the pandemic means that competition structures, training models are shape-shifting constantly. So to be able to draw a linear or a line from A to B and say this is the path we're going down is just impossible. What we'd say is our principle is whatever it takes to get players on the pitch, we're happy to support. That's within the boundaries of public health and it's within the boundaries of Football Victoria guidelines. But we will do whatever it takes to get the players playing because that's why we're here. That's the reason why people have invested decades and generations in the club so that kids have a platform to engage socially and to continue their football development. So for us, whatever we need to do to get a team on the field, to continue training, we'll support. So the idea of having a regional Victoria or a regional Victorian competition is something that we would certainly embrace, would favourably endorse. And again, with so many, particularly at a senior level, with so many players between the ages of 17 to 19 within our first team squad and within our under 20 program, we can't afford for those players not to be training and playing in an environment where they can improve. It would just push them back considerably.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
Now, moving into more of a strategic club direction, with lack of on-field action this year, is it an opportune time for clubs to embark on strategic planning and undertaking off-field projects? And how has North been going in this space in this time?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Steve. I think it is an opportunity to get to things that historically you may not have been able to. I think you're still hamstrung by social distancing and other barriers that exist through the pandemic to be able to do some of those things properly, like some really good strategic planning and working bees and other things can be a bit challenging. But our focus, if anything, the benefit that we've had is we've been allowed to focus more closely on the redevelopment of our lower pitches. It's meant that we haven't had as much traffic through the Elcho Park area, so we haven't had to logistically grapple with shifting too many games. We hope to have our bottom pitches resolved hopefully by September, October, and they'll be fit to play thereafter. So if we can extend out the junior program into those months, if we do get a summer competition off the ground, which is something that's been mooted by Football Victoria over the sort of October through February window, or November through February window, we'll be set up to be able to confidently execute those sorts of events. And, that's been our focus. And, I think it's also worth understanding that at some point these restrictions will end. So the capacity to develop and brainstorm some ideas for how we can reactivate football over the summer is also critical. Whether it's tournaments, a summer season at different age groups, we need to start tuning our minds to what we can do in what would otherwise have been the off-season.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of one of the big events at the club that was set to be staged this year in the off-season, that was like so many other things postponed until next year, was the annual Australian Croatian soccer tournament. Now, it's a massive event. From all accounts, this year was expected to attract close to 60 senior men's and women's teams and was set to inject quite a massive dividend into the local economy. Has planning been put on hold, or is that still continuing for next year's event?
I'm wearing the jumper, Tonci, if you can see the official Warriors come out to play tournament jumper. So I'll just get an extra 12 months wear out of it, effectively.
There we go. We'll have to put that on. There we go. Warriors come out to play a little bit.
So, yeah, it's been obviously incredibly disappointing to not be able to stage the tournament in October. There was, again, it comes with a huge community undertaking to stage that sort of a tournament. And we'd had the group all ready to go, an army of volunteers that flooded into the club to help us execute that. But I think that still will roll out. We'll just have to push it back until October next year. And if anything, it gives us a little bit more time to get those bottom pitches and some of the other infrastructure in place. Yeah, I'm really thankful to the governing body, the Australian peak body, and the members who allowed us to stage it next year. It may have been within their purview to hand the tournament to somebody else next year in place of Geelong, but they respected the fact that we had council sponsorship, if you like. We'd been deemed a major event, so we'd received some council funding. We'd also procured some other sponsorship from the region, and given we had those wins in place, they thankfully kept the tournament with us. So we'll host that next year, Tonci, but it's obviously a blind. It just puts us back 12 months. It would have been great to run it this year and then reinvested some of the money we may have generated from that event into programs for 2021. But we're, like everybody across the entire community, we're having to reassess our plans, and we do so in the knowledge that there's people in far worse position than what we are.
As they say, all good things come to those who wait, Steve. Isn't that right?
That's right. And as you said, maybe you can sell some more merch. And I think that flows on to the next question. What about finances? It must be tough in these difficult times to simply keep a club afloat with minimal revenue and sponsorship coming in, if any, or not as much as you're used to. How are you managing all that, and how can local clubs deal with that?
Yeah, great. It's a great question, Steve. It's certainly been something we've had to work through. Thankfully, the overwhelming majority of our club sponsors have committed to this season, notwithstanding the fact that our NPL men's team hasn't been able to compete. I think our ethos when we pitch to sponsors is they're not sponsoring a singular team at our club. They're sponsoring the whole community institution, the entire club from top to bottom. So that's another important reason to ensure that juniors, our women's programs, all the teams that we're activating in Geelong are playing as much football as possible. Just to give these sponsors, I suppose, I won't say bang for their buck, because they don't expect necessarily eyeballs for the money they invest, but they certainly are investing in the journey of these young people. So the fact that most of the sponsors have committed is wonderful. There'll be some first team. We had, for example, a Guernsey presentation night the week before the season came to an end. So a lot of that sponsorship revenue we might have to wave goodbye to. There's obviously the match day revenue that we generate, but that's obviously balanced out by the fact that most of the players aren't being paid as a consequence of that. So their travel money and other items that we normally reimburse for them aren't in place at the moment. So there's a levelling of that, but certainly anything we can get from government, council, to be able to start bridging the gap that exists between the cost of putting on the game for the kids and the money we're generating is welcome.
Absolutely. Speaking of finances, we reported in the news desk segment earlier tonight, breaking news, by the way, that Football Victoria has called a meeting of local clubs for later this week, I think on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, to discuss its refund policy, and we suspect to seek some form of financial assistance now, either from players in the region, the clubs, or the region as a whole. As the region's biggest club, North Geelong, what's its stance on this proposed agenda?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything formal as yet, Tonci. So what you're saying to me is effectively news. I'm not across the specifics of that meeting. I know there is a meeting for Wednesday evening. I don't have an agenda yet. I might check my inbox after this. There might be something in there. Look, I'd be really surprised if Football Victoria was putting its hand out to local players and clubs for support at this time. I think any support should probably be flowing the other way. I think Football Victoria have done a really exceptional job through this 3 or 4 months, hoping to get the NPL competitions back up. ultimately, COVID-19 took those decisions out of their hands. But leading up to that, I thought Peter Filopoulos and Will Hasty and their teams, Ezel, did a really great job in keeping the groups together and ensuring that if the games were to go ahead, we could be sure there'd be safety there and still integrity in the competition. So it's disappointing they can't go ahead, but I'll probably wait and see what happens on Wednesday, Tonci, and whatever request is made, we'll take. I'm really confident that whatever happens is people are approaching this with good faith, and any discussions that are had or any requests that are made will couch in those within that sort of framework.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, mate.
All right. And just finally, John, on a personal level, how are you handling the whole lockdown thing? Are you able to take a bit of a break now and from everything and enjoy some extra time with the family?
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I'm already got itchy feet and the game doesn't stop, so you're always looking about what you can do. And we're spending a lot more time with the North Geelong Warriors Instagram account, posting photos and the like. So, it's okay. I mean, it's tough for a lot of people, and we just hope that we can get through it. And within the coming weeks and months, we can get back out on the pitch and at least get back out the terrace. It's been a while since they've had a nice Javapi roll and a on the terraces.
Without a doubt. Now, before we let you go, JD, we've got a couple of viewers having their little 2 bobs worth and asking questions. We've got Michael Long says, Football Outlet News, just want to say hi to John and just spoke with Raja Gobal, who is writing a book.
Raja Gobal is one of the preeminent coaches in Malaysia.
There you go.
Michael Long, one of the great men of Victorian football.
Now, I don't like Michael. I don't like Michael at all because Michael was on last night's Football Fan Zone, pitted against yours truly and Joey Giacomatzo from Corio Soccer Club in our first Sunday night trivia competition with Craig Filer, our quiz master. And Michael Long took it out without, he smashed the pants off us. But good on you, Michael. And Michael actually says, JD, what age groups do you think is most affected by this time of uncertainty? Good question, Michael.
Yeah, look, probably too technical for me, Michael. It's really, I think each age group, these things are non-linear. It's impossible to predict, in my mind, what impact it'll have on individual players. I think, individual players are gifted with different levels of resilience, different times of maturation. So I think it's just important for every player to be trying to do something during this period if they're not able to get out and play competitive games. So if that's working on technique, if that's watching games, if it's studying about the game, if it's studying about physiology and their body and how they can improve, if it's working on strengthening their core, there's all manner of things that they can do. But there's no doubt, as Michael pointed out, there will be some developmental retardation as a consequence of this. So it's just about identifying how you can overcome the non-playing competitive games.
Yeah. Now, we've got a couple of North Geelong coaches, Craig Filer, our trusty colleague from the Football Out West show, who's also the coach of the North Geelong under-16 NPL. He says, culture is key. North have that in abundance. People drive clubs, and North have some outstanding individual whose sole aim is to develop young players that will one day play for the seniors. And so that's just a comment. And then Stuart Mallon, who's the assistant coach at the under-9 Mini Roos and also our Gold VIP member, our latest member, he's got a question for you, John. He says, who do you think should be the next Matilda's manager? Well, interesting. Who do you think should be the next Matilda's manager? Who's that, sorry?
Gossidik.
Gossidik.
Bring back the miracle work.
Bring back Gus.
The miracle work. Oh, look, I think there's a whole range of candidates. I think someone like Joe Montemuro is obviously done incredibly well at Arsenal and has devoted his life to women's football. So, I think the FFA is sport for choice. So I think it'd be great to see a local coach. I think we really undersell the quality of Australian coaches. I think it's an area where we've got some incredibly gifted practitioners. And by giving them an opportunity, I think we can see them blossom, whether it's Ange or Arnie or Popper, Muskie, Ante Milicic, there's John Aloisi. There's a lot of really great coaches on the men's side.
Yeah.
On the women's side, we haven't produced as many locally developed coaches as yet, simply because they haven't had the opportunity. So I think whatever structure gets put in place, let's get the very best person for the job, because we need the Matildas to do well at 2023. We want them to do well, but let's surround that coach with some of the best and brightest young Aussie coaches, particularly some great young women coaches. So they've got a 3-year runway to learn as much about the game as they can, and then hopefully inherit key jobs within the sport into the future. Because the more women we have in positions of leadership, I think the stronger our game is.
Now, speaking of women and speaking of coaches, Colin Payton there at North Geelong, I think he's the under-13s coach. He mentioned to me the other week that Laura Spadanovic, one of North Geelong's greatest female product, helped out with the coaches, with the boys there the other day. So it's great to see also some of the former North Geelong players getting back involved in coaching at the club as well. And who knows where the next step could lead to. But it's great to see a lot of ex-players getting involved. And is there any truth to the rumour that former president Vlad Jakic, who stopped being a president at North Geelong so he could concentrate on coaching the girls down there, he's eyeing the Matildas role one day?
Hey, if they want someone who's strong on discipline and will deliver things on budget, Vlad is the man.
He's the man for it.
I wouldn't rule him out. If they need a good project manager to...
North Geelong's not going to hold him back, no?
No. We put a clause into his contract that he's allowed to leave for any national team job leading into a World Cup. So he snookered me on that one.
There you go. Vlad Jakic possibly could be a wild card as far as the Matildas' next mentor is. JD, thank you very much for joining us on tonight's edition of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Really, really appreciate your time, and thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll see you in the flesh very, very soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Tonci, and thanks, Michael. Good to see you again, at least via text, mate, and I look forward to reading Raja Gobal's book when it's released.
There you go. Good on you.
See you.
Thanks, John.
John Didulica, who was the president of the North Geelong Warriors, providing that very insightful program. Thank you very much to John. He did come on the show on the proviso. We didn't talk too much about the PFA. He does want a break. He does really wants a break from football, and we totally understand it, and we respect that. Thank you very much. Steve, we're going to get into straight away the juniors, because we've got a full weekend of juniors that happened over the weekend, and we'll get straight into the results. What do you reckon?
Let's do it. So we'll jump straight into the boys under-12 Kangaroos/Wallabies, where we've got Barwon 4-0 winners over North Geelong, and Geelong Yellow 8-1 winners over Geelong Rangers Blue. Surf Coast Yellow and Surf Coast with a 2-2 draw, and Bell Park going down to North Geelong Warriors Red 4-1. Tonci.
Yes. Now I'll look at the under 12. What was that? The under 12.
Yep. And just a quick look at the ladder in that under 12 Kangaroos/Wallabies, and it's Geelong Yellow and Barwon both on a maximum of 6 points so far.
Yeah. Now look, the Joeys, we had Ballerine Sharks 0 came up against Barwon 4. Drysdale 3 defeated Lara United 1. Surfside Waves 0 came up against an undermanned North Geelong side that has done extremely well. They won 4-0, and they've got a goal difference now. They're on top of the ladder with 6 points from 2 games. Goal difference of 10 goals for, 0 goals against. And their coach is a very ambitious coach. He's another one that's eyeing that vacant Matilda's position, and we'll have to make a special mention of the Surfside Waves heckler, who was giving that coach a little bit of fun. How do I know all this? Well, that guy happens to be my brother, not the heckler, the coach. So I knew some. Well done, Rads. You're doing a great job out there. But moving along now to the boys under 13 division, Steve.
Yep. So the boys under 13 results are as follows, and it's Geelong Lions over Barwon 3-1, Lara United going down to Golden Plains 3-1, and big winners were North Geelong Warriors Red 13-1, and Surfside Waves Lightning 6-1 winners over North Geelong Warriors. And there was a bit of a goal fest in that one between North Geelong Red and Geelong.
Now, can I just say a little bit of trivia about that particular division? Dominic Postorino scored 6 goals for North Geelong in their 13-1 demolition of Geelong. He scored 5 last week against Geelong Lions. So in 2 weeks, he scored 11 goals. Morgan Holt also scored 4 goals for North Geelong Warriors Red. And last week, he scored 2. So he scored 6 goals. So those 2 boys doing exceptionally well in that boys under 13 division. Moving along to the boys under 14 competition, Steve.
Boys under 14, Drysdale 0, Bell Park 12, Barwon 2, Lara United 1, and Geelong 9 against Geelong Rangers Blue 0, and Drysdale had the bye. And so some big scores in that under 14 boys as well there, Tonci.
Yeah, boys under 14. So in the Bell Park one, the 12-0 victory over Drysdale, we had George Leslie bag 5 goals. That was a brilliant effort. Now, in the Barwon game where Barwon defeated Lara United 2-1, we had a young fella. Now, keep an eye out on this boy, Ethan Hackett. He scored 2 goals. Now, last week he scored 7 against Drysdale. So he scored now 9 for the season. Now, mind you, this kid was also featured in the Geelong Advertiser during the week. So, English-born fella that has made Barwon Soccer Club now his home, doing exceptionally well. Now, the ladder there is Barwon on top with 6 points, followed by Geelong on 4 and Bell Park on 3 points with a game in hand. So that's the boys under 14 competition. Then we move on to the boys under 15.
That's right. In the boys under 15, Barwon White 2, Drysdale 5, Barwon Heads 4, Surfside Waves 2, Geelong Rangers White 0, Geelong Rangers Blue 3, Barwon Blue 2, Bell Park 1, and Corio 8, Breakwater Eagles 1. So Corio, the club returning to the junior fold, is going along swimmingly at the moment.
Now we seem to have some slightly different results on the screen. Oh. So yeah, I'm not too sure what's going on. I'm reading
from a different songbook. So this is off the Sports TG. So perhaps somewhere something's conflicting.
That's right. Yeah, okay. So we'll go on to that. So the ladder results there.
So the ladder I've got this is the boys 15s. Corio maximum points on 6, along with Barwon Blue and Rangers Blue all on 6 points.
Okay, and then we finally move on to the under 17s, and then the under 17 result there. Okay, the scores in the under 17s. We have Lara United defeated Geelong Rangers. So I think we've got that one is right there.
Got that as 4 goals to 1.
4 goals to 1. Bell Park then came up against Barwon White. 3 goals to 1 win for Bell Park. Barwon Blue and came up against the Surfside Waves there at Grovedale Reserve. The Surfside Waves team defeated Barwon Blue 3-2. And then finally, Bell Park Blue played host to Geelong Rangers White. And the end result there was a 5-2 win for Bell Park Blue. Now, in that game, Jeremy Jurcic and Altan Onturk both scored braces, whilst for Lara United in their 4-1 win over Rangers Blue, Fida Husseini scored a brace. Now, we've got Bell Park Blue on top with 6 points, Lara United second with 4, and Surfside Waves with 4. Moving along to the girls' division, Steve, round 2 of the under-12 girls' competition.
Yeah, the girls under 12s, and hopefully these results all correspond. From the Sports TG page, I've got Drysdale Soccer Club winning over Lara United 5 goals to 0. Bell Park over Golden Plains 5 goals to 0. Surf Coast and Surfside Waves 1-1. Barwon Heads had the bye, and Ballerine Sharks suffering a 26-0 defeat at home at the Lake Reserve to North Geelong Warriors.
That was a massive, massive win by the North Geelong Warriors. We don't have the goal scorers, unfortunately. It was 16-0 at halftime. and then 26-0.
So they backed off a little in the second half.
I think so. They started getting a little bit tired, but what an incredible! They had a massive win the previous week as well. So North Geelong are definitely doing
plus 37.
Well. Yeah,
plus 37 on the difference
after just 2 games, and that is an incredible effort. And I think Ante Stosic is the coach out there. He also coaches the under 13 or the under 14 NPL boys team. So he also then fronts up on a Saturday and coaches, I think, his daughter's under 12 team there. So North Geelong Warriors certainly have got a lot of stars of the future, and just in the mini roos as well, under 7s, under 9s, and under 11s, they've got a full contingent of women's teams. And we did see last year, Steve, North Geelong was in fact the biggest female club as far as having participants. They even had more than Galaxy United. So they've got well over 100 juniors and seniors at North Geelong. So it's good to see their women's program just growing more and more.
That's right. Those numbers are going to keep growing with the World Cup coming up. That's why we need more football pitches across the region. Now on to the girls under 14. These are our final results of the round. They're all home wins, Tonci.
Yeah. So we had Geelong Rangers White 1 defeating Surf Coast 0. Barwon 2 defeating North Geelong Warriors 0. A great win there for Barwon. Geelong Rangers Blue easily defeating Barwon Heads at Myers Reserve 5-0. And Drysdale overcoming Golden Plains 3-0 at the Drysdale Sports Precinct. Now, after 2 games, we've got Geelong Rangers Blue on top with 6 points. Drysdale Soccer Club second with 4. Surf Coast FC with 3 points from 2 games. And Geelong Rangers White also on 3 points, just with a slightly inferior goal difference. But they do have a game in hand. So well done to both the Geelong Rangers girls teams, the under 12, under 14 girls teams. And that is another success story, isn't it, up at Rangers? Just a few years ago, they didn't have any girls' junior teams. Now they've got girls' junior teams, at under 14
the pace in the 14s, yep,
and doing exceptionally well. Mate, that brings us to the end of our week 2 results. Fantastic to see the juniors really doing well out there. It is great. It really is good to see. The youngsters at least being able to play for as long as we can possibly have them playing. This week will be week 3. We certainly hope that there will be no restrictions, that there will be no deterioration of the pandemic situation here in Geelong. Although some of the numbers seem to be saying that we're going into upwards kind of a spiral, if you like, or whatever you want to call it. You wouldn't really call it downward spiral. Yeah, trajectory. Yeah. But, when you do take into account how big Geelong is and how many tests are being done, an increase of 2 today and 4 yesterday. And, we're doing pretty well as a region. Let's just keep that.
That's it. So the junior kids and the parents, they're loving being back playing football. We've just got our fingers crossed that everything continues along the current trajectory.
And if all else fails, I've got my mask ready to go. Ole, 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 ole. On that note, Steve, I think it's going to be good night from myself and good night from yourself.
Good night from me, and thanks for joining us tonight. We'll speak to you next week.
And remember not to wear glasses when you've got a mask. They fog up very quickly.